One day of war, being in trenches under enemy's fire, would inevitably change anyone if they get to live it over. So many facts of the usual everyday Ukrainian heroes of this war will inevitably be left unknown, buried under debris and ashes of war. So many stories to cover, so many tragedy, blood, devastation, yet hope, courage and resilience. Today is the day 700 of Ukraine repelling Russian aggression. Good afternoon, Henry Keane is at UATV English Studio bringing hard truth to easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. The Russians are facing non-stop military losses on Ukrainian soil. About 379,000 aggressor troops were eliminated. Just think about that. 9,500 air targets of invaders were shot down. Thousands of tanks, armored vehicles and trucks were destroyed by the defenders of Ukraine. Some figures for you, and that plus means more lost during the latest action. That is only a part of it. The list is way longer. War devours resources and lives, as you can see. So some may ask why not to invest into Russian economy, education and medical care. Well, because the Kremlin doesn't care. The Kremlin needs war because the Kremlin is war. It has always been that way. The Kremlin is crippling lives and future everywhere it sets its Russian foot. Russian tactics during this war has never changed since 2014 when Crimea was annexed. It's terror, more terror, and even more terror. Just yesterday, January 23rd, the enemy launched a total of 48 missiles and 112 airstrikes, 73 MLRS attacks at the positions of not only Ukrainian troops, no, but usual civilians in various settlements. The Russian terrorist attacks have killed and wounded people, including children. More than 200 civilian infrastructure facilities in Kyiv and Kyiv Oblast, Kharkiv and Pavlodar were destroyed or damaged. It may put that in easy terms for you. May seem all quiet on the Western Front, but let me line up the events on the front line during just one day, January 23rd, yesterday. Kupiansk axis. Ukrainian defenders repelled one enemy attack. Liman, 6 attacks repelled. Bakhmut, 3 attacks repelled. Avdiivka, 16 attacks repelled. Mariinka, 16 more attacks repelled. Zaporizhia, 4 attacks. Kherson axis, 7 attacks repelled. So 53 attacks were repelled by our forces during just one day. So whatever you thought is the cost of just holding the positions, you were wrong. It is higher multifold, and that's just one day. Multiply that by 700 days, and imagine these men and women in trenches are dying for you, defending your home, your ideals and your beliefs, your right to call yourself free people. Imagine that and you will roughly get the idea of a feeling we feel for our army today on a day 700 or on any other day, right on the way to Ukrainian victory. On the eve of a meeting with Prime Minister of Ukraine, Denis Shmyhal, on January 24th in Uzhhorod, Prime Minister of Slovakia, Robert Fico, made a number of, let me put that straightforward, openly deceitful and threatening statements towards Ukraine. We Ukrainians not only disagree with Mr. Fico's statements that the withdrawal of Russians from Crimea, Donbass and Luhansk is unrealistic.
I'd like to visit Slovakia as soon as possible. We can arrange this meeting, let's say, not far away from the borders because of your program. Might be able to arrange this visit as soon as possible because there is so many topics we should discuss. Please believe me, we are here and we want to help. Of course, there are some issues where we might have different opinions, but that's political life. But anyway, I believe that if you will see the Slovak delegation, the composition of the delegation and topics we would like to open, we will see that we really want to assist you, we really want to help you.
It's not last meeting and we will continue to develop our pragmatic and very reliable relations between us, between our governments, between our countries.
So yes, not only we disagree, but the fact we also noted that the Slovak Prime Minister overestimates the power of Putin's regime, and that can be understood. The Ukrainian nation disagrees with Comrade Fico and can't wait to see Robert Fico's face when Ukraine actually restores its borders. Meanwhile, only one question to Slovak Prime Minister. Just help us to understand. If you, dear sir, think that the return of our lands from Putin's occupation is unrealistic, does it make said occupation legal? So if that would be Slovakian land occupied, would Prime Minister Fico just shrug shoulders and say, all right, then we can't do anything about it anyway, it's unrealistic, so let's call it legal and yield to Russian Tsar's will and give up on our Slovakian land? Well, this is not exactly the way for Ukraine, Mr. Fico. For Ukraine, joining NATO is not a whim, but a matter of survival for millions of our citizens. Security. NATO guarantees such a security, as we can clearly see by Russian Tsar's behavior, who is trying to avoid any direct confrontation with NATO countries. For us in Ukraine, the security of Ukraine comes first, since without security in and for Ukraine, there will be no security in Slovakia in particular and in Europe in general. So whoever and whatever says Ukraine and partners are making efforts to liberate the occupied Crimea and Donbass, as well as to prevent the progress of Russian criminal aggression and the possible advance of Russian troops to Košice, Prešov and the Slovak territories. Because, in easy terms, it is not about what Robert Fico or anyone else thinks about what is realistic and what is not. It never was. It is always about freedom. So despite controversial statements of Mr. Fico, life in Kiev can hardly be called normal. We live for almost 2 years hiding in shelters from almost everyday missiles and drone attacks. Sometimes we die murdered by Putin's missiles. Our children in Ukraine die killed by Putin. Would Mr. Fico wish that normal life for the capital of his beloved Slovakia, beautiful Bratislava? I don't think so. So let us consider all the previous statements of the Prime Minister of Slovakia, instigated by his fortunate lack of a grim experience living under Russian fire. And we have been very much hoping that the negotiations in Uzhhorod will contribute to Slovak Prime Minister reconsidering his views. We appreciated the very opportunity to talk, as it is the right thing to do, you see, to talk to those who disagree with you. And look, here is the result. A new mutual Ukrainian-Slovakian statement that, first, confirms readiness for further cooperation aimed at respecting the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders. Notes the firm and consistent support of the Slovak Republic for the European integration of Ukraine. Expresses support for the peace formula of the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. It emphasizes the importance of Slovakia's participation in the recovery of Ukraine, confirmed the importance of Slovakia's participation in humanitarian demining of Ukraine. Also notes the importance of joint efforts to ensure global food security. It increases the transit potential for the export of Ukrainian agricultural products. Emphasizes the importance of developing military technical cooperation on a commercial basis. So see, who is left there posing common sense? Right, Viktor Orban. Well, on the contrary to the security agreements with NATO alliance, the one engaged in any negotiations with a tyrant, such as Putin is, has to remember solely one thing can be secured about these negotiations: the tyrant will violate them eventually. Any of them, all of them. In terms of tyrant Putin, he just can't behave otherwise, dear world. You see, he's what he is, a Soviet leftover, a usurped ruler of an empire that crumbled down 30 years ago. Soviets. To be treacherous, morbid liar and a murderer is natural for Putin. It is his calling, his fate. And it will become his doom. Ukraine will make sure of that. And what about NATO? Well, what about it? NATO is growing right on the contrary to what all Putins of the world wished. The Turkish parliament has finally approved Sweden's membership in the alliance. Turkey voted yes. The parliament voted Tuesday to approve Sweden's NATO membership bid, bringing the Nordic country one step closer to joining the military alliance after a month of delay. Of the 346 members of Turkish parliament who voted, 287 were in favor of Sweden's accession and 55 voted to reject it. 4 others abstained from voting for some reason. It is a big knot of interests anyway, that historic vote. Erdogan's approval of Sweden's accession bid also rides on a commitment by the United States, with the Turkish president signaling that he won't sign the protocol into law unless the US approves the sale of them F-16 fighter jets to Turkey. And the United States Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chair Ben Cardin said on Tuesday that Congress, however, is waiting to see the accessions documents completed before moving forward on the matter. So Sweden is a powerful state in terms of military. Its accession to NATO will add value, no doubt, to the alliance's collective security. Ukraine welcomes the achievements on the path of Sweden's Euro-Atlantic integration and expresses respect for the decision of the Turkish parliament. Nothing, and I mean nothing, is more important than strengthening NATO's ability to defend its borders and members in the face of increasing global turbulence due to, of course, Russian aggression against Ukraine. No personal ambitions or any other reasons should stand in the way of this. Guess who? Hungary remains the only NATO member that still has not yet approved Sweden's accession to the alliance. I wonder why is that? Why don't Viktor Orban rename Hungary in Orbanland already? Well, Ukraine also expects to complement the alliance as part of the new wave of NATO enlargement after Sweden. Bare fact is, without Ukraine, that spilling its blood for human values NATO stands for, the architecture of European security will not be complete. NATO will reliably strengthen its eastern flank with Ukraine joining the alliance. We are working hard for this day to come. Meanwhile, that seems to be all for today. Thank you for watching. It was Henrik Kiernan in the UATV studio bringing the hard truth in easy terms for you, dear world. I hope very much you like what we do for you. If that is the case, please help us. Like, share, subscribe. Help us to deliver Ukrainian voice worldwide and make it be heard. Let us know what you think in the comments below. We appreciate that a lot. Please stay safe and tune for more. See you tomorrow.